Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar where we'll be providing an introduction to the Short Placement Award for Research Collaboration and the Local Authority Short Placement Award for Research Collaboration. Go to the next slide, please. Before we get started, we just have a couple of housekeeping points to mention before the webinar. So you'll be able to use auto-transcription for this webinar to show subtitles if needed. You can do this by clicking on the Show Captions button within Zoom. And if you would like a copy of the slides from this webinar, you can request them by filling in the evaluation form at the end of this session. You can provide us with an email address and we will email them over to you. This will also automatically be shared by Zoom when you end the meeting, but we will also post a link to the chat just towards the end of the webinar. We'd really appreciate any feedback that you could give us. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions at all, please use the Q&A box throughout, and you can also upvote any questions where you would particularly like these to be answered by using the thumbs up icon. Next slide, please. So for your speakers today, you have myself. I am Tanya Probar and I am Programme Manager in the Infrastructure and Capacity Building Structures team here at the NIHR Academy. I'm joined today by Professor Rowan Myron, who is presenting in her capacity as the Deputy Chair of the SPARC and LA SPARC Funding Committee. Thank you, Rowan. And we also are joined by Dr. Katerina Panagaki, who is a previous Local Authority SPARC Award holder. Thank you, Katerina. Next slide, please. Throughout today's webinar, we'll cover the following topics. We'll give you an overview of the SPARC and LA SPARC Awards and then provide some information on submitting an application. Rowan will then give you some advice for your application, including top tips that we've received from our funding committee members. This will be followed by Katerina, who will give you an overview of her experience undertaking the local authority SPARC placement. And we'll end today's session with a Q&A. So please do post your questions in the Q&A function and upvote those you'd like to have asked. Next slide, please. There will be some attendees on today's webinar that may not be familiar with the NIHR and the Academy itself. We wanted to just start with a brief overview of who we are and what we do. So here at the NIHR, we're committed to funding outstanding research, and we do this by focusing on the 6 key areas that are highlighted in this diagram. It's the area on the top right-hand side of this diagram, which is the NIHR Academy's main focus. So we attract, train and support the best researchers to tackle the complex health and care challenges of the future. We're passionate about people and developing careers in research, and we really do appreciate that conducting the very best research isn't possible without investing in people to carry it out. Next slide, please. This slide shows an overview of what we do here at the NIHR Academy in order to meet that aim of attracting, training and supporting the best researchers. Our focus is on academic training to support the career development of our awardees and build research capacity development. We run a number of national competitions that offer training and career development opportunities across all professions and career stages. And by offering these awards, we hope to attract and support those who intend to conduct leading edge research with a focus of patient and public benefit, which is within our remit for personal career development awards. Through the awards and other opportunities that we offer here at the Academy, we aim for you to build your skills as the next generation of health and care researchers to support the health and wealth of the nation. Next slide, please. So as mentioned on the first slide, one of the NIHR Academy's role is to build on and add value to the investment in training and academic career development that is happening throughout the NIHR. Each of the centres and wider capacity building structures, which are detailed on this slide, which I'm sure many of you on the call today will be familiar with, have a remit to support and grow future research capacity and research careers. This has expanded since our last SPARC and LA SPARC competitions and now includes NIHR Academy members who are based within an NIHR programme grant, such as the Programme for Applied Research or Research for Social Care, and those within mental health research groups. And what we mean by having a capacity building remit is that they are investing funds from the NIHR in research training and academic career development for individuals within their locality. This may be in the form of internships or master's level training, PhD studentships, or postdoctoral career development posts, meaning that these sites and initiatives are really investing in and supporting those individuals within their research training and academic career development. Next slide, please. So as we have attendees for both the SPARC and LA SPARC Awards on the call today, we're just going to start off with a quick overview of both schemes for everyone's knowledge, especially for those of you who are new to the opportunity. Next slide, please. So we'll be starting off this section with an overview of the SPARC Award, what its aims are, and who is eligible for this award. Next slide, please. So the SPARC Award is a unique award specifically for NIHR Academy members based within a part of NIHR infrastructure, an NIHR Health Protection Research Unit or Health Protection Research Focus Award, an NIHR school or wider NIHR capacity building structures, as mentioned on the previous slide. The award offers the opportunity for you to undertake a short placement within another part of the NIHR. You can use this award to gain exposure to other NIHR funded centres or initiatives outside of where you're currently based. Through this award, you'll be able to enhance your research training experience of your current award and build collaborations outside of your current network, or use the opportunity to train in specific techniques or skills. Next slide, please. So here we have the eligibility criteria for NIHR Academy members to undertake both the SPARC and for undertaking the local authority SPARC. So to start, you must be undertaking a formal training or career development award. This will have to have been competitively awarded, have a formal training and development plan, and also have a defined endpoint. This award or post must also be based within and funded for at least 25% over the lifetime of the award by one of the parts of NIHR infrastructure, schools, or wider capacity building structures that I've mentioned previously, which are also listed at the bottom of this slide. You'll also not be able to currently hold a career development award with the NIHR Academy or an NIHR clinical lectureship. If you're unsure of your eligibility as an NIHR Academy member, we would suggest that in the first instance, you contact your academic career development lead, and then you can also contact us in the ICBS team, and we'll share our contact details at the end of the webinar for any queries. Next slide, please. There are a large number of centres or initiatives within the NIHR that you would be able to undertake a placement in, and there's a few of them listed on this slide, and we'll go into a bit more detail about choosing where you would like to undertake your placement later on. And on the right hand side of the slide, we have some examples of the type of placement that you may be interested in undertaking. There may be some training that you wish to undertake which isn't currently available at your own institution, so you could take the opportunity during this placement to do so. Or you may wish to use the award to develop collaborations that will help you build on your research training experience. Next slide, please. Now we will head on over to the local authority or LA SPARC. Next slide, please. So as well as the NIHR Academy members eligible for the SPARC Award, the LA SPARC is also available to the individuals based within local authority settings. So local authority colleagues are able to undertake a placement in a part of the NIHR, and NIHR Academy members are able to be placed in a local authority setting. The main aim of this award is to shape mutually beneficial research collaborations, networking and joint ways of working between the NIHR and local authority settings to help bridge the gap between academia and practice. Next slide, please. And here we have the eligibility criteria for individuals within local authority settings. So you must have a degree level qualification or equivalent experience, be contracted within an English local authority setting or a provider of local authority commission services, or be a public health specialty trainee based in England. Also, for both the SPARC and LA SPARC awards, it's part of the criteria that the placement is focused on early translational, clinical and applied research within the remit for personal awards for the NIHR. And you can find out more information about our remit on the NIHR website. Next slide, please. So obviously, depending on whether you're an NIHR Academy member or an individual in a local authority setting, the location of the placements will differ across these awards, but the natures of the schemes are the same. The award is in place to support you in enhancing your career, developing your skills, and also your research training experience. It will allow you to experience research in a different setting and from a different perspective. We're aiming to build collaborations and networks across different parts of the NIHR and also within local authority settings. The funding available for both awards is also the same, with a budget of up to £15,000 to support you to undertake this placement. And we will go through what you can request a little later on. Next slide, please. So to get started with designing your placement, you can use one of our very helpful web pages, which are known as the Where Can I Go guide. So we have one for local authority settings and one for the NIHR. So we list all of the places that you can go and give you an overview of the research themes and areas of interest for all of those sites. So you can use this as a bit of a starting point to see if there are any centres that align with your areas of interest, or if there's somewhere within your locality that you would like to go. But please note that these aren't exhaustive lists. So but for both the LA SPARC and the SPARC, you're able to go to anywhere that's eligible to host you as a placement, as long as you've got an agreement with your contracting organisation and the placement host as well. And when starting out designing your placement, for NIHR Academy members, you'll need to reach out to your primary supervisor and your ACD lead. And individuals in local authority settings, you'll need to get in touch with either your senior manager or head of service. So you can discuss with them your individual training and development needs, and also to discuss what you would like to do as a potential placement to make sure that these align. And you'll also need to seek their permission and support to go ahead with undertaking the award. You'll also need to identify a placement host supervisor at the institution where you plan to undertake your placement. So within those Where Can I Go guides, there are contact details for anyone who would like to discuss potential placements, or if you're going somewhere that's not listed within those guides, you'll need to find a contact within that organisation. Next slide, please. So when deciding on the length of your placement, this will be completely bespoke to you. So awards can start from the 1st of April and must be completed by the 28th of February the following year. You can choose whether to undertake a placement, for example, for full time for a few weeks, or 1 day a week over a period of a few months. And then again, you should discuss this with your supervisor at your contracting organisation and the placement host supervisor, so that you can agree on timings that work for all of you. And if you'd like to see some activities, some examples of the activities that you could undertake during the award, these will be available on our website, and we also have some case studies from previous award holders that you can view. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, you can request up to £15,000 of funding for your award. You can use the funding for salary or stipend support, attending relevant training courses, or attending UK conferences. You can also request travel, accommodation and subsistence relating to these activities to allow you to go. If you'd like to produce an output as a result of your placement, you can also request funding for this. And as it's specifically for NIHR Academy members undertaking the LA SPARC Award, you can also request supervisory fees to pay for the time of your placement host supervisor at that local authority setting. And just so that you're aware, local authority overheads and full economic costings are not eligible for the award, as costs are provided at 100%. And as the SPARC and LA SPARC awards are not funded research, you also cannot request research or consumable costs within your budget. Next slide, please. In terms of the funding for the award, your contracting organisation will incur all of the costs that are associated with the placement, and at the end of your award, your finance team will provide a financial reconciliation to our finance team at the NIHR Academy, and they will arrange for payment to be made from the Department of Health and Social Care to your contracting organisation. Next slide, please. There's a very brief overview of both of the schemes. So I'm now going to move on to looking at the application process for both the SPARC and the LA SPARC awards. Next slide, please. So the SPARC and LA SPARC competitions run in parallel. So we launch once a year in late September. The competition will close for applications in late November, and this diagram shows the next steps after you've submitted your application. So firstly, ourselves at the NIHR Academy will assess your application for eligibility, and then your applications will be reviewed by the funding committee. The committee then undertake a meeting in early February where they will make recommendations for funding to the Department of Health and Social Care. When we have received confirmation of funded applications from DHSC, we will then communicate these outcomes to you, which likely will be in March, and then placements for successful applications will start from the 1st of April. Next slide, please. So for you to understand exactly how your application is going to be assessed, we wanted to share the assessment criteria with you. So to support a competitive application submission, it's important that you include all relevant information related to each of the criteria shown here on the screen, while also demonstrating that you meet the eligibility of the award. So we'll start with the SPARC assessment criteria on the slide. The committee are looking for how the placement will impact you, the benefits to your career, and that you have appropriate support from both your contracting organisation and your placement host. And as you'll be experiencing a different part of the NIHR through the award, they also want to see how you are using the opportunity to expand your skills or knowledge in techniques and knowledge undertaking activities that aren't available to you where you're currently based. Next slide, please. For the LA SPARC Award, there will be a number of reasons that individuals in a local authority setting may want to undertake this award, whether you are wishing to develop a practitioner academic career, if you would like to enhance your current and future roles, or if you want to expand your current research studies. So it's really important for you to make this clear within your application so that the committee are able to assess the benefits of the award for you and your future career trajectory. They'll also be looking at how you plan to create a meaningful collaboration between the NIHR and the local authority settings, as obviously this is one of the main aims of the award. And as with the SPARC criteria, they also want to make sure that you have that appropriate support in place to be able to undertake the award. Next slide, please. So now moving on to the application itself, you'll need to create an account for the NIHR Awards Management System, as this is where you'll be submitting your application. As these are short placement awards, the application reflects this and is shorter than other applications that you may submit for NIHR awards and grants. There will be a link on our webpage to the standard application form guidance, and that will assist you in completing the form itself. And then all other information directly relevant to the SPARC and LA SPARC schemes will be available on our award web pages. Next slide, please. So on the summary information tab of the application form, you will be asked to input the duration of the award in months. So as we discussed previously, if you are planning to undertake this award full-time for a period of say 2 to 3 weeks, you just put 1 month within here. And if you're planning to undertake the award on certain days over a period of a number of months, you could please enter the number of months that you plan to take the award. The specific details of how you'll be carrying out the award and the duration should then be included within the placement plan in the flexible upload section, which we'll go over shortly. Next slide, please. In the lead applicant tab of the application form, I just wanted to highlight that you will need to include what is called an ORCID ID. So for any of you who are not familiar with ORCID, it's a free unique user identification number used by the NIHR and other health research funders. So this will be used as part of the assessment of your application by the committee members in place of a CV. So you'll need to include your employment history, any previous experience and qualifications that you hold. And you can also include any relevant prizes or awards that you have. The ORCID will also be used by the NIHR Academy team to confirm your eligibility for the award against the criteria. The ORCID is live, so you can go in and update this at any time if you have any new information, but it's really important for your application that you ensure it's fully completed before you submit. Next slide, please. In the budget section of the application form, you'll be asked to input the overall costs into budget lines, such as the lead applicant's salary, training and travel. There is then a separate budget justification section where you can provide a more detailed breakdown of these costs. For example, breaking down the training costs into specific training courses or any conference-related costs. And further guidance of where to input these costs on the form will be available on our SPARC and LA SPARC funding opportunity pages. And as mentioned previously, you'll need to input any costs at 100% as full economic costings are not covered by the award. And you should also ensure that when you're inputting your salary, that it is specifically for the time you'll be undertaking the award and not your full-time salary. Next slide, please. As part of the application form, you will be required to complete a flexible upload document. So this is where you're going to include all of the information about your proposed placement, including the plan, the activities you wish to undertake, and the benefit and impact that the award will have on you and your career development. And you should also include information about the support that you will receive from both your contracting organisation and the placement host institution. So that is an overview of both of the schemes and the application process. So I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, Professor Rowan Myron, with her perspective as the Deputy Chair of the Funding Committee. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Tanya. So yes, I'm going to give you a little bit about my perspective. I've been involved in the SPARC funding committees for the last couple of years, and now I'm Deputy Chair for the committee. So I'm going to give you a little bit of what it's like behind the scenes to help you. Next slide, please, Gareth. So the role of the committee, obviously, we are there to review and assess applications. So as a funding committee, we will get a whole load of applications come through on this management system. And essentially, it's our job to have a look at these, take a look at whether they meet all of the criteria we're asked to mark against, and then we make a recommendation to NIHR. So we're looking obviously at the criteria, but also all the things that Tanya's just covered. So the committee comprises a whole range of people. There's approximately 9 members, a chair and a deputy chair, which is me, but then also other members from across the infrastructure, so ARCs, BRCs, HPRUs, etc. And then also we have 2 NIHR Academy members. So it's been really great in the last couple of years to have people like Katerina who've kind of done this before, and they also join the committee. So you do have that perspective of someone who's just been through it. Next slide, please, Gareth. So what are we looking for? Applicant research experience. The committee are looking for applicants that really can clearly describe, this is where I want to go and this is how this placement is going to help me. Now, I know from experience, some people in the local authority maybe don't have research experience, and that's okay. It's about articulating, you know, how is this going to help you and your practice within the local authority, within public health or social care. For those perhaps based in an academic institution or doing a PhD who might be interested in a SPARC, it's about articulating some of your research experience, your ideas, you know, your areas of interest. But it's also about kind of any other relevant things that you've done in terms of whether it's audit or policy experience. Experience of working with people and communities can be really helpful and really demonstrate, you know, part of where you're going or the way in which you work. also any additional relevant skills and experience. So if you have experience in comms or creating infographics, or, you know, there's lots of different experience that you can highlight to the committee that also helps us to feel like we're getting good value for money. And as I say, for local authority applicants, if you haven't done much research, please do kind of articulate why is it you really want to get involved in research? What will it, are you looking for an evidence base that will really help you to support yourself with clients or people you're working with? And next slide, please. And then obviously the placement plan is a big part of the SPARC. The committee are looking for applicants to really clearly and concisely outline a plan for what they're going to do and why they're going to do it. So it's evidence that you have assessed, you know, this is the gap in the knowledge and this is what I really need to learn in order to support my PhD or whatever it is you're doing. It's really good to have a concise, clear outline of that. And that might take a bit of work. I know from experience of putting in funding applications, you know, sometimes you have ideas and you need to work them through to kind of make sure they're nice and clear. So work with your host supervisor or your home supervisor to make sure you can get them as clear as possible. But also think, you know, articulate why have you chosen this particular host institution? Why is it that you wish to go and visit this person, this expertise? Why do you need that? And why can you not get that where you are? But also a clear justification for the length. So again, it's all about feasibility. You know, if you really need 8 days over that period of time, and that's fine, and you've justified it. It's really about being clear as to why this is really needed. And also, can the activities be realistically achieved? So sometimes people can err either on promising too much, and the committee are thinking, oh, can I really do all of that in that time? You know, and that's kind of too much, or too little, where you're kind of like, well, you know, surely there could be more happening here. So it's about kind of being able to clearly articulate what you want, what you will achieve from this placement, and then clearly measure that outcomes. You know, what are you going to do with this? How will this benefit you? What outputs will you have? Will you have a publication? Will this placement help you in the delivery of a piece of research that you're doing? Next slide, please. And obviously, part of that placement plan is about the benefits and impact for you. The committee are looking for applicants to clearly and concisely articulate the benefits and impact of the placement. So that's kind of one of the criteria. We have forms to fill in as a committee member. So, you know, we have to write about this. And if we can't see it, or if we're having to search through going, where is this? So if you can clearly articulate, you know, how is the proposed placement plan supporting your development and getting you to where you need to go? How does it meet your own unique training? You have, all of you, I know all of you out there have training and have experience and have expertise already. So how will this placement enhance what you have and add to it and take you further on your career path? And what does success look like for you, you know, from that personal perspective? Because this is a development award. I know many times when we apply for funding in research, it's often about the project, but actually this award is more about you. Yes, many people are doing a project and you might be looking for a skill that will help you with a project, but it's about you. So it's about what will success look like for you and where you're going in your career trajectory. And why is it important to undertake that placement right now at this point in your career? You know, why can it not wait a year? So be very clear in making that case, you know, convincing the committee why this needs to happen, why it needs to happen for you, where it will get you. But also thinking about how the proposed placement will enhance your chances of going where you want to go, whether that is, you know, towards director of public health or, you know, director of social care or professor in an academic institution. It's really about how is this going to enhance your career so that you will continue to contribute and bring all that you're learning in your placement back to your institution and back to where you're based. Next slide, please. Placement host and supervisor. I have to say, from my experience in the committee, this can sometimes be something that people struggle with. So I would say definitely consider the availability and commitment required from the placement host institution. So definitely, as Tanya's pointed out, there's some really helpful websites and links where you can go and look at all of the things people have said. You know, you can come here and you can do this here and you can do that there. And you can email people and, you know, talk to them. I would say it's a bit of a red flag if you email someone and they don't reply to you for 3 weeks. Just kind of, obviously that's kind of common sense, but it is about, do you feel really convinced that you're going to be able to give the commitment and be available, and the person you're visiting, the supervisor that you want to work with, is also going to have the time to work with you, and that you are able to clearly articulate that in your placement plan, clearly outlining the frequency of meetings, the level of support that you'll get. Because often, I have to say from experience, we sometimes get these kind of quite general, oh yes, I'm very much looking forward to working with Jane. And, it's just 3 lines. And you kind of, as a committee member, you're like, really? Whereas if you can say, I am very much looking forward to working with Jane. I will meet with her once a week. She will join our team meetings, so being specific enough so that we feel it's real and it's really going to happen. But it's also about the fit of the supervisor as well with your research area, and that they have, or their team and their unit that they're working with, have that specific expertise that you need to gain, that will enhance your career and enhance you as you move forward. So clearly outline the steps the placement host institution is going to take to ensure that you're actually going to be able to deliver, and you're going to be able to engage, and that you're going to be able to do the things you've promised to do within your application. And providing a little bit of detail, really, I mean, that's kind of what I was just saying earlier, just giving us enough detail that we can feel reassured that this is going to happen, and that you are going to be met with, and the supervisor isn't going to be too busy 3 times out of 4 when you're trying to meet them. I know that happens, life happens, but it's about kind of, really conveying to the committee, these are the excellent things I'm going to be doing, and this is what I'm going to get from the placement, and therefore I'm going to be able to bring this to my research, to my career, and back to my home institution. Next slide, please. So what the committee wants to see in successful applications. So often, we've noted, as we've seen many come through over the last couple of years, what is useful is a clear demonstration of how the placement is going to provide impactful experience, providing you with new skills, new experiences, things that are going to advance your career or the things that you're currently doing, whether that's a PhD or whether that's the work that you're doing. So a clear explanation of how the award is going to support your career trajectory. So that's what I mean about, yes, it is about a project, but it's about you. And the project is a vehicle to develop you. So think about your career trajectory, where you want to go. Clearly justify the costs. I can't emphasize that enough. And then that's true for any funding application that you put in. It might be nice to go and visit Singapore, or to do this or to do that, but you have to be, really justifying, why is this essential to the placement that you're going to go to and experience, and why can you not do it a different way? A clear demonstration of strong organizational support, and a placement that is not centered around a particular research project. So again, that's what I mean by, it's not necessarily about the project. Yes, many people do a project and the vehicle of learning is around a project, but it's not about the project. It's about you and your trajectory and your development. So if what you're writing is coming across as, this is a project that my supervisor's just told me I need to apply for money, and because we want to do this project, that's not really what this award is for. It's very much more about you and developing you to get you to a better place for where you want to go in your career trajectory. So just be kind of clear on that. Next slide, please. So some top tips. Next slide. We've got a few top tips on the next slide. Considering value for money. So that's kind of the point I just made. For example, in the last year or so, we had a number of people coming through requesting quite a lot of money for infographics. Now, I do want to caveat that by saying I do believe that an infographic can be very powerful and really helpful, and graphic designers and people working in those industries deserve a decent amount for doing that work. However, again, it's about justifying it. It's about, rather than claiming thousands because you think it will be fabulous, or someone's told you, oh yeah, an infographic is going to cost 3,000. That is kind of, does it have to cost 3,000? Are there design students in your university that you could work with? Or, you do most of the work on Canva and then you ask for an hour of a graphic designer's time to help you polish it up? in which case that might cost more like 800 instead of 3,000, So again, it's just about justifying why you're doing it. Why is it essential? And then it's also balancing in-person versus virtual attendance. Now, obviously, it's great to have that in-person experience. Sometimes the connections and the networks you make by being in person and chatting to people in the coffee room are essential. But you can often balance that with virtual attendance as well, so in terms of, instead of trying to get train tickets every week to be there, can you do alternate weeks, so you're there every fortnight, so you're seeing people, but in the meantime you're meeting with them virtually. So it's just about balancing that in terms of value for money. And then also sustainability can come in many different forms in terms of you and your career development, sustaining your work, but also sustainability in terms of green as well. Do you need to be driving 200 miles every time? Can you find a more sustainable way of doing that? So just reiterating what I've already covered, placements should not be centered around a research project. You can, obviously, the research project can be there and it is a vehicle for you to develop yourself. But for this award, it's not about the research project. Yes, we want the research project to be good, and you can put details in there about that, but it is about demonstrating how that research project is a vehicle for you to develop yourself. But also think about the resources that are available to you. You have the research support service, which I think used to be called the research design service. So there are people around also within your own institutions as well. There'll be people to go to and talk to about this and how you can develop this and make it better. And also, again, for the NIHR and what in the wider sector right now, co-creation is central. We are not interested in just doing things to people. It's about working with people. So can you think about co-creation in your placement plan? Can you work with others, whether it's communities, whether it's your host institution and larger stakeholders, thinking about how you can co-create that, and think about discussing all of those things and how that will impact how you might shape your SPARC application. But also ensure your timeline is feasible. Just like ensuring the budget is value for money and feasible, you need to make sure that you have enough time to carry all of this out, as well as do the things that you're promised to do. So if you're doing a PhD, for example, and then wanting to visit someone else, and then you're saying, oh, I'm going to visit them like 3 days a week for 6 months. It's like, well, what's going to happen to the PhD in the meantime? Is it feasible for you to do this and do the things you're promised to do in your home institution? So there's a couple of things there to balance. I think I'm now handing over to Katerina. Thank you very much. I'll be here for Q&A.
Thank you, Rowan. And so, yes, I'm Katerina. I was offered a local authorities SPARC award the last funding cycle, like Tanya was saying. So I thought I'd give you a bit of the background story that led me to the SPARC first. So we can have the first slide, please. So I spent about a decade in academia training as a social scientist with a focus in mental health. And then I moved to do some practical work in the voluntary sector in the NHS. And in that, I kept feeling that conflict of the requirement to do frontline work with clients, but lacking the link to research and evidence. So after a while, I decided to move back to academia, and I was successful in applying for an NIHR funded PhD, actually, that was in applied research. So trying to bridge the gap that way, although it did often feel more like moving between sectors and worlds rather than really bridging that gap. And nevertheless, having that inside of both sectors, both worlds, it did allow me to be more critical and more creative with my work. So I was able to approach an issue from different perspectives. So I was trying to look at issues in a global, national, local, or also glocal level, as they say in anthropology, which was important in recognizing potential mediating factors and risks for different groups and subgroups, especially ones that maybe hadn't been given a voice as much before. So that inevitably led my PhD to focus on health inequalities. And then my experiences and my work, if you could please have the next slide, led me to think all the more about policy and systems as the source of challenges that I was observing, but also where the opportunity for real change may lie. So I was also taking this upstream approach myself. So I went on an internship during my PhD with the Department of Health and Social Care, working on national policy and exploring that sector. And I found that experience to be extremely insightful, so that as a researcher, I was then better able to align and communicate my work, all of those things. So after that, I landed my current role with the Applied Research Collaboration, the ARC Northwest Coast. You can have the next slide, please, where I work as the Health Equity Mainstreaming Strategy Lead, which again is all about bringing change. So again, finding myself in that space of asking, how do we do that? But also working with people from different sectors regionally. And so all the more realizing I didn't quite understand policy or systems at a local and regional level as I maybe did at the national level because of that internship. So the SPARC became my opportunity to gain that insider info into how things actually work. So I went into my SPARC with two key objectives. So we can have the next slide, please. So I really wanted to understand how the system works at that local regional level. And then in talking with my hosts and academic colleagues as well, when I was planning for this, we agreed it would be helpful in that process to also explore where research sits in that. And when I heard about the SPARC, which was rather close to the application deadline, I jumped at the opportunity, especially because of my previous experience with the Department of Health, which now meant I had a sense of what I wanted to know, but I didn't know where to go for that, which is something I've heard from others, and it was mentioned before. Where do you start with finding a host organization? And from my perspective, if I could give you one tip on that, it would be to start with your immediate contacts. You may not know the right place or the right person to speak to, but someone in your network is bound to. So just put yourself out there and just ask. In my case, I was lucky because colleagues at Lancaster University, including a previous SPARC award winner, they set up a call for us internally, and that actually helped me identify and introduce me to my SPARC hosts. If we can have a next slide, please. So like Tanya was saying, money can be spent in different categories, including training. So because of wanting to take a systems approach to prime my view in that way of thinking, I started off with some systems thinking training. I did a one-day workshop with UCL, but then I also did a 6 months module with the Open University. And I did all of that prior to going on the actual placement. So it was learning I could bring with me and share with my hosts as well. But that also meant my SPARC kind of lasted for a year, really. And then speaking of hosts, if we can have the next slide, please. So after spending 6 months on training and placement, I moved to the actual placement, doing 1 day a week with my two hosts. The expectation is to have one host, but in my case, I was allowed to have two. And that was the Health Determinants Research Collaboration, HDRC in Blackpool, which is another NIHR funded infrastructure based within Blackpool Council with the aim to increase and support research engagement. And then Cumbria and Lancashire Public Health Collaborative, which again is another collaborative that brings again lots of players in the region. So local authorities, NHS, OHID, NHSE, people across the region. And you can see here a bit of their plan and work streams. So when I was planning all of this at the application stage, and again, we didn't have much time before the deadline, but we managed to have a couple of meetings together with both my host supervisors and just had some honest and transparent conversations so we could turn this into a win-win opportunity, really. And the key there was that although we each had a sense of what we might be able to get out of a placement, we didn't know necessarily how, or even more, we didn't know what we didn't know, if that makes sense. So my host didn't know my areas of expertise and what I might be able to offer. And I knew I wanted to get a better understanding of their daily working lives, but not what was going on actually. So I could specifically ask to attend things or people to speak to. So what made the placement a success for me came down to two things, really, which was one, being honest about objectives. What do I need? And then also being creative and open-minded and just flexible in that planning. And by the way, my two hosts, they already had a relationship between them, but they were keen for me to also help them learn about each other more and maybe develop more of an ongoing relationship. So that was kind of like a third smaller objective in a way, if you like. So during that time, we can have the next slide, please. I did join a breadth of activities. So anything from team meetings to statutory committee meetings to one-off workshops. And then I also had a chance to speak one-to-one with people in different roles. So to that extent, I was exposed to different levels of the system, like from county council and district to place-based partnerships, and then had a mix of people I spoke to from community researchers attached to specific projects to some more clinical primary care settings, and then public health collaborative roles and oversight groups. And again, the intent was to understand who really speaks to whom rather than where the former lines of accountability line. So from a researcher's perspective, more so where the opportunities to collaborate are, or what door to knock if I wanted to share my work in the future. And I was really lucky because everyone was very, very welcome and kind enough to offer me their time. And, you know, in the process, I did my best to give back in any way possible, whether that was, you know, sharing some of our health equity resources from the ARC, or co-facilitating workshops, or just help make network connections between others. So as you can imagine, if we can move to the next slide, please. When applying a year in advance, we didn't really know the dates of the meetings that I would be attending, or nor did we have a sense of, you know, the full list of things that would be coming up that may be of interest to me. So that was one of the challenges when applying, that I wanted to be specific enough so the committee wouldn't be worried this might end up being a waste of time, you know, but I wasn't really able to be as clear and concise like Rowan was saying before. But equally, I wanted to be open and flexible enough because we just didn't have that information yet. So, you know, those meme comparisons with and without filter, or before and after that you get, this is my Gantt chart at application stage. And if you can move one on, this is what it looked like at the end. And this is only 2 months. It did become a big thing. And meetings were only set, you know, this long in advance, and things changed over time, all the time. But also, we wanted to ensure I was able to split my time equally between the two hosts. And the way we managed that was by using Miro to design an online and live Gantt chart, which my hosts had access to at all times, and I could easily edit, and changes were live instantly, etc. So we initially also thought about this requiring a set day a week with a split for 3 months with one host and 3 with the other. Reality was, however, that relevant meetings would happen at different days of the week. And also it made more sense to merge months between the two hosts. So again, that was a challenge to ensure I protected that time in my calendar from my other workload if it wasn't going to be a fixed day, but also have the flexibility required. Now, because the placement tied in with my work at the ARC so well, this wasn't an issue, but it did require some admin and boundary setting on my side. And we also met for supervision every couple of weeks, which we did with both my host supervisors together. And for those, what worked best for us was a more informal setup, where we just discuss some of my reflections over the last couple of weeks, and then we're led through those discussions in identifying what else might be of relevance to the placement. So throughout the placement, if you can click one further, please, I kept an unstructured reflective journal of my thoughts and observations. And my intention originally was to make a note at the end of every placement day. But again, in reality, I found myself thinking about things at different times, whether on a placement day or not. So I kept it at hand and added to it whenever I felt I had something to note. And to be honest, I still add to it sometimes. If we can move to the next slide, please. It can take some time to digest new learning and fully understand it, and similarly, impact doesn't just happen at the end of a placement. So when I was being asked throughout this, you know, what are the key outcomes of the placement? You know, I was saying very selfishly, well, it will be my learning and my understanding and my networking, because this is a personal award. Having said that, I am very happy to share any and all of that learning with others wherever it's realistically useful and of value. But for me, it was important to not limit myself in promising, you know, peer-reviewed papers for the sake of it. And whenever I was asked, instead, I asked back, you know, what would be helpful? What format would you actually consume? And so far, that has ranged more so from formal presentations to more informal meetings and chats. And throughout my time and placement, from early on, I had this image developing in my mind, one of gears of different size and form, where I could see different themes and topics reflected in that as a metaphor for what I was observing. And as part of the pot of money I'd planned for dissemination, I worked with an illustrator who created this lovely version of it for me, which I have in digital form. I have in a Try4Flyer hard copy format as well, that I've been using to guide my presentations and chats about my reflections from the SPARC. And I did also spend some of that dissemination money towards attending a conference, which again went both towards dissemination of that learning as much as towards further training relevant to my placement objectives. And at the end of the placement, you know, there are the expected minimal, really minimal feedback forms. But in my case, I really don't think that's the end. Again, impact doesn't just happen overnight. It doesn't happen just because we decided to measure it today. So although the placement is officially over, I'm still very much further debating reflections and developing insights from the SPARC, as well as working on collaborations that were enabled through the SPARC. And that's not just about research projects. So if we can have the next slide, please. So currently I'm very much at a career crossroads, trying to decide what my next step should be. And I very much want to sit in the middle of that research practice policy triangle. So meeting different professionals through the SPARC that still to this day actively help me brainstorm my options, you know, has been great. And for now, the only thing that I'm certain of is that wherever I land, having this deep insight of the other sectors will be massively helpful in the future, as has my previous placement with the Department of Health been today. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you to the NIHR team for inviting me today, and even more so for offering me the SPARC Award. I do hope this overview of my experience has been helpful. If you're thinking of applying, I would certainly recommend it. And if there are specific questions, I'm happy to try and answer them. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much to Rowan and Katerina for your fantastic presentations there. We do have quite a few questions in the Q&A, so we will get started through those. If we aren't able to answer your question today, please feel free to get in touch with us. We'll share our contact details at the end, and we're more than happy to discuss these with you. But I'll just go in order from the most upvoted. So we have a query here. Can the placement be run alongside a training programme like a funded MCLIN res? So in terms of those who are applying as an NIHR Academy member, you will already be undertaking a training or career development award or post that may be at a master's level. So it can run alongside these, but we would ask that it doesn't detract from your current studies. And I just will invite Rowan if there's anything else that you would like to add on that.
I think it goes back to the point when I was presenting around, you know, it's the feasibility of what will the placement add, and will you still be able to complete the thing you need to complete, that, you know, whether it's an MCLIN res or a PhD. So it's about that balance, I think.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Rowan. Lovely. Moving on to the next question. So for the LA SPARC placement, do you need to have a current contract of employment with the local authority, or do you mean we need to arrange a contract as part of our placement but do not need a pre-existing relationship? So hopefully this question's been answered, but as part of the eligibility criteria for the LA SPARC Award for individuals in local authority settings, you must have a contract of employment with a local authority setting in England. Okay, so we will move on to the next question. So I would like to apply as an individual in a local authority setting, but I don't hold a degree. Does this mean I'm not eligible to apply? So no, this doesn't count you out of being eligible for the award. As mentioned previously, we do also say that relevant experience can be considered for the award. If you're not sure that you have something that is considered relevant experience, please get in touch with us and we're happy to discuss that with you. Let's move on to the next question. So, do we need to apply individually or co-authored with the local authority we'll be working with? So, the application itself is at an individual level, so it will be for you and your career development. But what I've touched on, and also Rowan has touched on, is about that co-creation. So, when you are looking to design your placement, it's really important to have those discussions with the placement host supervisor to ensure that the placement is mutually beneficial to you and to where you're going to as well. Rowan, did you want to add anything else onto that?
I think that's a really important point. That, I mean, obviously lots of us could come up with a really fascinating and interesting thing that we could do that would help us, but it is also about, well, what does that contribute to the people you're going to, and what are they going to contribute to you. So it is about that mutual beneficiality. Is that a word? Beneficiality.
We'll take it as a word today. Thank you, Rowan. So we have, if there are any questions that are specific to you, I would suggest getting in touch with us. But we do have a question here about whether you can undertake a placement within an HRC. So I just wanted to double check this one. If this is in terms of the health tech research centres, then yes, they are classed as part of the wider NIHR, so they would be eligible. But if that is relating to any other centre, we'll just need to double check that with you. So again, please get in touch to discuss that one. Sorry, they have just changed the upvoting, so I'm just going to go back to the top to make sure we're answering the questions you really want answered. So one here, so a top tip mentioned was that applicants can be supported by the NIHR RSS service and the specialist hubs, and whether those within the hubs and specialist centres are able to apply for the award themselves. So unfortunately not. So as we said on the eligibility criteria page, you need to be hosted by one of those infrastructure centres, so ARCs, BRCs, PSRCs, HPRUs, HPRFAs, NIHR schools, and also those wider capacity building structures such as the programme grants or mental health research groups. Unfortunately, that's not open to that opportunity is not open to people within RSS currently. But thank you very much for your question. Someone has asked if there is a mentorship programme for the NIHR Academy members who are on their masters or recently concluded a master's study. So we do have some mentorship programmes, but as you've mentioned here, they are for people who are in their final year or have recently completed. But we do also have some leadership and training and mentorship offers in NIHR Learn. So these are different modules that you can undertake in your own time, and they are open to anyone, so you don't have to be an NIHR Academy member to access those. Someone has asked for a link for the list of hosts, which will be within our Where Can I Go guides, which will be available on our NIHR website and the award web pages as well. So, and someone's asked about HTRCs being considered as part of wider infrastructure, but not listed within the eligible institutions. So yes, that's correct. So people in local authority settings would be able to undertake a placement within the HDRC, as it is classed as part of the wider NIHR, but it's not within those eligible institutions that I've mentioned. So people working within the HDRCs themselves, unfortunately, are not eligible for the award. And we've got a question here, which is based on Katerina's presentation. So to what extent do we need a detailed placement plan? Should we propose a timeline of activities, or like Katerina, recommend having a more creative and open approach? So is there anything else that you would like to add from your presentation, Katerina, for this question?
I guess it goes back to echoing what you and Rowan both have been saying. So you want to have in the application as much as possible so that you can reassure the committee, but also yourself and your supervisors and your hosts that this is actually going to happen. This is what we intend to do. But in that, you can also say, like I was saying, this is what I tend to do, but I realize I don't know. I will know then. This is the plan we have in place to discuss it at that point in time, or this is how we're going to, you know, address issues as they come up. And I mean, if halfway through things changed, I think everybody's sensible and to be approached and say, look, things changed. We realize this is what we had planned. This is what you funded, but we realize this would be much more helpful. Can we please change things? I think, and Rowan can confirm or not, but I think that would be acceptable. It's just make sure you're getting out of it what you intend to and what you really need. So I think it's just putting that in for whatever however much information you have. If you don't have it all there, just to say, this is the plan that we have in place for when we'll get it. This is why we don't have it at this point in time. If we don't get it in time, this is what we'll do instead.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there is a balance that we're not expecting you to say on Tuesday, the 27th of February, I will do this at 10 o'clock. It doesn't need to be that specific, but it is about reassuring the committee that, you know, you will meet with them regularly. And if things change, you might want to use language like, this is the current plan. However, this will be driven by the public engagement event I'm running, and patients and communities will choose what we do next. You know, so it's kind of giving a reasoning for any flexibility that's left in there.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both. So I think we've got time for maybe one more question. So we have got someone who has asked, so I work in a local authority organisation. I would like experience in or to be coached in being a future leader or PI in grants and projects. Would this make me eligible for this funding route? So obviously, if you are an individual based in a local authority setting, you would be eligible for this award, and absolutely use this opportunity to build on your current research experience and your training. There may be time to shadow in a different part of the NIHR to see how this works, or specific training courses as well. Catherine or Rowan, did you have anything to add on that one there? No. Perfect, thank you. Well, that's all the time we have today. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question, but as I said, we're more than happy to answer any of these after today. So please get in touch with us. Our email address will be shown on the slide shortly. And I just want to thank you again, and to our panelists as well, for joining us today. So thank you, and we hope that you get in touch soon.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you.